Minecraft players are really good at making structures, but what often gets overlooked is the most important part of building a city, how those builds connect. The spaces in between are what makes a world feel alive. They're where scale, story, and immersion really happen. But when you're faced with an empty gap, it's easy to feel stuck. Take my city for example. I have a train station on one side, a cliff on the other, and nothing but empty space in between. But that space isn't a problem, it's a potential. In this video, I'm going to show you how to connect your builds in a way that gives your world meaning and cohesion. Hello, my name is Dai and welcome to my world. I do weekly videos of me building in my forever world, and in today's video we'll be doing some interiors, some terraforming, and some bridges. And most importantly, we'll be answering the question of how to connect your builds, right? So I have this beautiful building right here, that's my train station, and right here is my clay farm, but in between them there's like this empty spot which needs to be addressed. And also, if you head over here, we have this nice cliff, this nice house, but there's an empty space between here that needs to be addressed as well. So that's a lot of the problem with most Minecraft world, that they have nice builds, you don't know how to connect them properly. And in today's video, I'll be teaching you how to do just that. But first, let's continue the tradition of making interiors in my forever world. So I've been doing some interiors lately. I did this interior right here, which is a restaurant, or Japanese restaurant. We can trade with the villagers for some food. Yes, they just got killed by some zombies because I didn't light up the area properly, but luckily they didn't die. So we have some pretty cheap trades here, which is amazing. And then next door, we have this library housing our villager right here who sells mending, which is amazing. And next door is an empty spot that's gonna be for a new villager, and it's gonna be super exciting. So let's just start with the walls and the floors first. So I went ahead and started with the floor. There's a pretty simple pattern here that's kind of hard to look at right now, but I promise it'll make sense, where these basalts are making a square pattern. And then we have these different variation of tuff and moss. And then this here right here is a carpet, which is going to be pretty hard to look at right now, but I promise everything will make sense. And that's the flooring that we have. Now, because of the limitation that we have with the other side here, so this directly connects to the other house, and this other side uses this pattern for a wall, which creates an interesting challenge here. So we have to use this as a wall. So that means we just have to mirror that on the other side here. So let's just do that. All right, now that we mirrored that, we want to make a trimming for the bottom of the wall. So we're going to be using some sandstones, and so on the sides where there's pillars, we're going to put some shelves like this. And then in between them, we're gonna put some sandstones. And there we go, that gives off a really nice transition between the upper and the lower one. Just this tiny shelf right here adds a lot. All right, now that's done, we wanna put in some barrels here. I'm gonna put some chiseled bookshelves, one more here. And we can put some beehives just to give it that drawer look. And to transition back into this color right here, I'm gonna put some, I think that helps add a bit more detail to the area. Now, since this is a thrift store, we want to put some shelves down. That way we can sell this up on the shelf here. And if we use some trapdoors, I think that gives that look that it's a shelf. Plus, if we just put some item frames here, just to cover up that books underneath, and put some more up here as well. That's where the display of the items are gonna be. Now let's just break some of them right here. So you could just put some books down as a decoration. And then we could start by putting in these slabs. This will kind of act like, instead of the shelf, at least that's just how I imagine it to be. And then at the end here, we could do some propagule, just like that. So now we want to do the ceiling first, which is why you gotta build the staircase to the top floor, some walls, and a staircase that's just gonna go spiraling all the way to the top here. And then we can start going up just like that. And we want to break these blocks and change it into some composters. All right, now we can place down some moss carpets up here, and we can put some stairs here. Now we do need some lighting here, so we're gonna put a lantern like so. That gives it a nice warm lighting. And then we could put some doors here, and then just do that all around, all the way down to the first floor. Now we gotta put some railings on it so it's more secure. There we go. That site's looking nice. I think interiors are really fun to build out. It takes a lot of planning to fill out the space and figure out what would look good. And I do have a lot of like love-hate relationship with it. And it's more fun when I'm filling out spaces that's smaller like this rather than a big building that I've done before, because it is more daunting and you don't really know what to fill out on the other spaces. But these are pretty fun to figure out like what would look good on different sections of the build, right? So we're gonna put out some lightings here, just like that. There we go. It's looking pretty good so far. And we can break this block right here, and then we can put some barrels. So let me show you this trick right here that I just figured out. It still looks pretty much the same. You won't really notice the changes here. So that's good for the backside right here, because this gives just a bit more extra detail to the room. Then we can place a jukebox, and then we can encase it with some trapdoors, and then put a lightning rod right there. And it gives the illusion that it's a jukebox. Then we can start building out the counter here by putting down some shelves and some jungle. You can cover it up with some carpets. That's looking good. Some trapdoors here surrounding it a bit. There we go. Now we just got to do some more casings here. I'm going to put some display here and a statue right here. And that should be it for this room. So let me just do that real quick. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the other one. Put a barrel here. And we can put some shells on the side. Trapdoor in the front. And then we can put the diamond on the armor stand. And that should do it. But first, we're going to put this glass right here and a trapdoor on top. And we're just going to nudge it all the way back. And there we go. That looks pretty cool. The barrel here at the back, it kind of gives the illusion that the opening for this encasement is on the back there with the latch. That's pretty cool as well. And now we're just going to do the last stand here. We can use some jungle trapdoors, some trapdoors on the side. And we can put 2 armor stands. One for the armor right here, and a shield on the other one. I think that's pretty cool. And the other one would be the skeleton head right here. That looks really good. And then lastly, we're gonna put these shelvings at the top, and then we can put some fence gate, put some item frames here. Then we can hide them. And that's pretty much it for this interior right here. We can decorate the top part a bit, but I have no clue on what I want to put up here. So I'm just going to put some shelves up here for now. So we could just do this. And then this white part here is sticking out a bit like a sore thumb. So we might want to cover it up. And that should do the trick here. Pretty simple room. Now lastly, we just want to put the villager in here. And then this interior is done. Now we'll be taking the villager from this house right here, because I don't really like the placement of this house anymore. So eventually this is going to go away too, sadly. But yeah, at least the villager will be moved to a better place here. So let's just move him right now. Now we just got to bring his brewing stand here, and then we're done. Let's place it right here. There we go. And this is going to be a super useful villager in the future, because I think they can give out bottle of enchanting. And I think that'll be a really good use case of this villager right here. All right, I'm really happy that we got all of these buildings fully done. And I do want everything here in this area, the houses, to be fully furnished. So this is the first step of doing that. And now we can move on to our next project. Alright, so we've done the extension of the dock here. You can see it right behind me. And I want you guys to pay close attention to what I'm saying right here, because this is going to be super important for you guys to connect your builds. Before we start, I do want to mention that I use the same block pallets as I've done before. So it's just stone bricks, polished andesite, and stone. I just mix them up and just go all the way through with it, right? It might look a bit messy, but once we put all the buildings down, like let's say we put this building right here all over the place, and we put buildings like this, especially like right here, you could barely notice the texturing. So it is a bit noisy, but trust the process. I know it's gonna look great. So I want you guys to pay attention to the walls here, right? You can see the walls down here is more curvy, and basically everything that we have here is telling a story in an indirect way. If you pay attention to the world building close enough, you'd see all these little details that I've put into the world. So walls like this happen where there's like a lack of technology, so people just end up patching up these walls right against the dirt surface, which is what I've done here, and it has like a lot of rough edges. And this side right here, we have a lot of straight angles right here, and we have a lot of straight walls here. So straight walls happen when, you know, you have enough technology to make walls more smooth and more unnatural, right? Because these walls are more natural to the landscape, while these ones are more unnatural. Same goes for these ones right here at our industrial district, since it is an industrial district, which means it is a more advanced area. So we have lots more straight walls in these areas, and that's the storytelling that we have here in our world, right? These little tiny details add so much to the landscape that we have, and it gives character, it gives meaning, it gives a separation and identity to each different section in our world. So these stones that we have right here, these are basically pathways, same as the pathways that I have in my forest, but the difference is that since it is an urbanized city, everything is covered in concrete basically, right? And harder to differentiate between sidewalks and places where buildings go, especially when we're looking at it right now when there's no buildings yet. But this is how walkable cities are laid out. They don't have a clear distinction between the sidewalks and just like the main road itself, right? And when it comes to these things, you gotta imagine like where would it be considered the main road and where would be considered the alleyways, which is why we have these different stair sizes. This would obviously be the main walkway to the upper section, while this one right here and the other one on the other side, it's the sidewalk. Same goes for this one right here. We have the main road at the front, and then we have a sidewalk at the back. So these things kind of simulate a real city and what elevates it even further. So cities always have a main road, a tertiary road, right? So you have to differentiate between these things. We don't have to go full realistic and, you know, identify all of these roads distinctly, but just differentiate them a bit, right? Have a main road at least. That way we can clearly see where most people walk around. And this is what I'm trying to do here as well. But I want you guys to notice one thing as well. This sidewalks that we have here, the one on the left and the right side. And as we head right here, this side would be considered the sidewalk, and this side right here would be the main road, right? If you want to talk in American terms, this would be the collector, this would be the arterial way. But yeah, make sure to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a city planning student. I'm just here learning things on my own. I might get things wrong, but this makes sense in a Minecraft and a gamey sense. You can trust me to that extent, but these are not one-to-one real world representation. But yeah, as I was saying before, we have this road right here and the one on the other side right there. And when these things happen, you got to realize the significance of it as well, right? Why is the road designed around this building right here? So I want you guys to ask yourself these questions. Why is the road designed this way? You know, one explanation could be that this has been an old building in the city and they want to keep it as a heritage for the city, right? But it could also be that this guy here, right here, whoever owns this building is a very powerful person, and they are able to get the city to build around what they have. So there's a lot of possibilities and answer to why this road right here is designed the way it is. But yeah, these tiny details really adds character to your world. So when you do design something in your world, I want you guys to think about these things. Why does the road curve in a certain way, right? What are the significance of the choices that you make here? So these things really build character and adds a bit more realism to your world. So if that's something that you're looking to do, be sure to think about that before you build something. So the next part of the video right here is going to be about connecting the terrains. So behind me right here, we have this cliffside that I built a while ago, and right now it's not connected to anything. What could be a good in-betweener of this section right here that is nature and this one that is man-made? So there's a lot of possibilities here, but I ended up choosing one that is more interesting to me, and it gives a bit more greenery to the city, which is why I plan to cover all of this area with some greeneries and build up the mountain a bit so it's the same height as this one. And this wall right here would be a retaining wall to help keep the landslide away. This all would make sense once I built it, but I just wanted you guys to understand what I'm trying to do and how I get in that mindset. So let's start building the mountain. Alright, we have a lot to cover here, but this is what we have so far. You can see on the left side right here, it's a bit sparse. The amount of trees here is not enough. I'll explain why in a bit, but I do want to talk about the block palettes first. I think that's probably the most important thing, is to help you guys understand the block palettes that was used. So we do have a couple of different blocks here. For the brown tones, we use dirt or stone blocks. And for the gray tones, which is most of it, we use a lot of coral blocks, gravel, andesite, acacia, and occasionally the mossy cobblestone to transition between the grass and the moss blocks. And lastly, the darker areas of the gray, we use tuff, deep slate, and muds. And what really gives the highlight to this area is definitely the greeneries here. The greeneries really bring the area to life. Same goes for the top part right there. There's like a bit of a greenery around the area. For those parts, we have crimson roots, grass, firefly bush, short dry grass, and some Missouri flower, and some dead corals. These are really what sells the illusion of the nature that we have back here. Let's go fly up there a bit. I'm gonna show what's happening behind the curtain here. As you can see, a lot of the back stuff right here hasn't been built out. Not because I'm lazy. Well, okay, maybe I'm a bit lazy, because with the materials that I've gathered, we wouldn't be able to cover all of this space back here. And to be honest, I haven't fully planned out the backside of this mountain, right? I try to tackle this slowly, and actually I built this mountain together with my friend Ilya. Ilya is a really amazing builder. He's really good at shapes, he's really good at colors, he knows how to put blocks together, and honestly, he's one of the best Minecrafter I know, which is crazy. He's been a really great help for me with this mountain project, because I've never done mountain sites before, and he basically helped me plan out the whole thing, which is incredible of him to do so. But yeah, I haven't gotten to the backside of things, which is why the trees here are not fully done yet. To get the effect that it's a fully dense forest, we need to expand this a bit backwards a bit. That way we can kind of stack the trees and giving it a bit more fuller look. And I don't want to overcommit to that area just yet, because I might change my mind on how I want to arrange that side. You know, we're just gonna give it a bit of tree as a taste of what's to come, basically, right? And the main view of this area is definitely the waterfall. I think I've mentioned this before. Whenever I build something, I try to look at a certain angle. In this case, it was like right around here. I wanted it to be the main focus point of the whole area. I drafted this whole idea like 2 to 3 months ago, back when I first started with this whole area, and when I first planned out the train station. And I already had this grand idea of having a train going all the way to this side of the town, which is, I don't know, I just like have that image in my head for so long, and I just wanted it to come to life. And when I have that idea, I do notice that we have like a lake here, and I just didn't know how to incorporate it properly to the whole environment until I thought of like a waterfall feature next to the train. You know, it might be a bit dangerous, there could be a potential hazard here, but it just looks very cinematic, you know? Like, I couldn't pass on this opportunity to put this waterfall next to this bridge for the train that we're going to be building in the next section here. But the biggest takeaway that I can share with you guys from this section right here is I didn't even plan out this whole section on the left side right here when I was building out this cliffside right here. So this is not a part of this. Like, I built this long before I knew I was going to do this side. So this was like an impromptu idea of like trying to connect this side all the way to that side. It could be a bit jarring with all of this area down here, but once we put down the tracks, you know, it wouldn't be as noticeable as it is right now. But yeah, you just gotta make it work sometimes, right? Like, as a builder, you can't wait for the perfect opportunity all the time. You gotta make do with what you have, with the skill sets that you have, and then you try to improve upon it when you are able to improve upon it. So don't wait, just try to do something. But yeah, I told you guys that we have a hole right here. We basically are gonna be building out a bridge for the train. So the last part of this project right here is to transition between spaces. And let me tell you guys what I mean by that. So we have this whole city structure right here, and we have a harsh stop right here where it transitioned directly into nature, which is a bit jarring. It might not transition very well. And usually in the real world, the transition is more gradual, where there's like slowly smaller buildings, and then eventually you get into the outskirts of a town, and then you get into this nature section right here. But it's a video game, so you can have these creative liberties to connect areas in a very weird way. And the next trick that we're gonna do is basically gonna solve this issue to make it less jarring and try to make the whole area a bit more cohesive. Let's build out the track first, and then I'll explain to you guys what I mean by that. So this is what we have in the end. We just added this copper bridge right here. This is the first thing that I actually came up with when I was building this whole section right here. We just used a lot of copper, some weathered coppers, some oxidized lightning rods, some levers, and we have a lot of copper trapdoors, and then copper bars, and some candles to give that more spiky look at the top. And yeah, everything is just copper. I initially had this idea because I wanted to have a bridge that is more fancier in the city, because when we do extend the train tracks over to that side, it's not going to be as fancy as this one. This is obviously really expensive to make, not just in Minecraft. You know, in real life, tracks like this are really expensive to make, so normally companies would opt into using wooden framings for their bridges, for their train tracks, because it's cheaper. It also makes it a lot nice. And copper bridges like this are pretty expensive to make, but yeah, they would normally have these stuff within the city limits because, you know, it's pretty and they want to make everything in the city a bit prettier. So this is exactly what I did. My concern mainly was when I was building this is it's green, right? And the background is also green, which is gonna make it blend in a bit too much with the background. But let's see it from a distance. Let's see how that looks. I like that, even though it blends in a bit, but it does give that back area there a bit more interesting. It was already interesting before, but now it makes it even more interesting to look at from this distance. And then if you just like go over here, you can see the train, and yeah, that's really good, right? You have this very strong foreground element, and then the background is even stronger. So I don't know, I really like this specific spot in my base. I think this is the area that I work on the most in my world. So yeah, I think all of the hard work really paid off looking at it here from afar. But to talk a bit more about how to transition between the two spaces right here is, as you can see, that the train tracks right here is basically the secret sauce to transition between areas. And it's not just train tracks, right? And this is actually a pretty common practice in video games where they transition areas with bridges or train tracks or something that looks like a hard stop, which a long line like this is basically a hard stop, right? So it indicates the end of one area and the start of another area. And this is not just in video games, in real life also. You have a lot of good examples with highways built in, well, in the US. Highways are generally what divides an urban planning. So you can see like one side of the train tracks, you have this nice houses and rich families. And on the other side, there tend to be poorer families with less better housing and worse living condition overall. And these train tracks are usually the hard stop in between areas. And basically we use this technique as well, although in a less grim setting. We transition between nature and urban living here. I think it makes it less jarring, the transition between nature and the city here, because it was a bit jarring for me, although it was nice to look at the greeneries right here at the back. But now that we have this bridge right here, it makes a lot more sense because it helps transition and soften the gradual change into the forest here that we have at the back. And I do want to point out these details here on the bridge. I really like what I've done here so far, although the zigzag here could be a bit cartoonish. Other than that, like the arches and then the end rods, the lightning rods that are giving this nice jaggedy look to the whole platform. I don't know, I really like what I've done here. It's really good, I'd have to say. Not to toot my own horn, but this is incredible. And yet to top it off, we have this train right here. Ilya helped me with the design of this whole thing, of the train. We modeled it off of a real train in the 1950s in Japan. You can see it has a more rounded shape. It has like a boxy look that Japanese motor designs have back then. It looks really good from afar. It has a lot of signs, it has a lot of banners, and it really sells the illusion that it's a train, right? Initially, I didn't want to put a train here. That way I could just like ride my minecart all the way to that side. But it doesn't sell the illusion very well when you're at a distance. But since we have a train here, it makes it look like it's a living city with like real trains and stuff, because there's no trains in Minecraft, so I have to use a minecart. Talking about that actually, let me grab a minecart here. In a train station, we could just press this button right here. There we go. Now I want to showcase the train right here a bit. Now looking at this, you might think it's not usable, right? But we designed it specifically so that we could still use this even though there is a block right here. So we could still move through the space without getting damaged, because basically we want it to look good but also serve a function. So this is the ingenious design that we came up with. That way we can have best of both worlds basically. But yeah, this is basically the final project here. I really like what we've done here. We need a bit more work right here. I didn't do this part because I don't know what to do with this area just yet, so I just kind of left it blank for now. But yeah, this is the project for today's video. Let me return the minecart before I forget here. We could just bring it in here and put it in the recycling bin. There we go. It should be back in the system. Oh yeah, while we're at the train station right here, I do want to talk about one thing. So I couldn't figure out how to make this work without making it ugly, right? Most train tracks that people build, they have it like above ground, like a block is sticking out right here just to launch the tracks. But I didn't like how that looked, so I couldn't figure out how to make a redstone that would actually do that for me. But luckily I do have a friend, his name is Deck. He's really good with redstone stuff, and he helped me come up with this design. So let me just kind of display what's happening here. So if we put our cart here, and let's say we hop on, and we want to head to that direction right there, we just click this button right here and we're launched to that direction. Pretty simple. So same goes for the other side. If you just press the other button right here, which is this one and this one, it's a similar color because I do want to make it look seamless, but you can tell it's a bit different. This one right here you use to launch yourself to that side, and you click this one to launch yourself to that side. So let me show you guys from a distance so you can see what's happening here. Let's say I do want to go to that side. Press that button, and then this piston right here pushes you forward, and then this piston right here pushes the track back on the railway. Pretty smart design, honestly. It's really good. I've never seen it before. And one thing that this also solves, so let's say we're out of the city and we're coming into the station right here, and we want to stop at the station right here, right? So let me just move myself forward. Since there is no powered rails here, you would be stopped exactly where you need to be. And then let's say if you go up here and then you want to go again to that side, just press this button and then you're launched again. How neat is that? That's amazing, right? But yeah, I haven't connected this track towards the city, the one that we just built right there, because first things first, I don't have enough resources to make them. I don't know why, but I like the look of the tracks with some anvils, and they're super expensive to make. And I need to build a better farm if I do want to make this all the way outside of the city. And one way to do that is to find a good iron mine. So before we head out and try to find a good place to get iron, let's do one thing first. So for the comment of the day, we have a question from Zirios. I don't know how to pronounce it. They asked, what was the most difficult video that you made? I just made my first video in a few weeks back, and I found it quite time consuming. Will it get easier the more you do it? So that's a good question, Zirios. Let me answer that question while I travel outside of the city, so we can start finding some iron while I answer this question right here. So that's a really good question, Zirios. I don't think it gets easier. You definitely know what to expect more. Like you kind of know what to do and how to do it more efficiently. But most of the time, you know, it's still pretty hard, you know, coming up with ideas, coming up with a build. But if you want to make something great that people actually watch, something that you're actually proud of, I feel like that takes a lot of planning and a lot of thought behind it, and it doesn't really get easier, at least where I'm at right now, which I am probably like 15 videos in, and no, I don't think it gets easier at all. But yeah, I think the lesson you learn from each video is very valuable, and it helps make the next video just a bit more painful. It helps you structure the video better, basically. But other than that, I feel like it's still pretty hard at the end of the day. And to answer your other question, which one of my videos is the hardest to make? I would say all of the stuff that I collaborate with people, they're generally pretty hard to make, mainly because of time zone, and that really makes it hard for me to work with them, and when I can find the time to plan out the builds with them, and most of the time I would stay up until 3 to 4 a.m. just to come up with a build and do it again for like the next few days, because a collaboration video normally takes me like 5 to 6 days to build, plan out, and then gather the resources. So it's a really time-consuming process, but it's enjoyable nonetheless. I've never seen this area before. This is really pretty actually. But yeah, if you guys are trying to do content creation, I feel like you need to learn a lot of things, not just making good builds or, narrating videos. It's like a lot of skills that you combine and package it to a 20 to 30 minute video every week, which might seem easy, which might seem like a cool job. Not to say that it isn't, but it has a lot of different aspects that you might not think about when you watch these videos. But yeah, let's continue traveling here and try to find the iron mine. Didn't expect anyone else out here.
Hey, old friend. I could say the same.
The world feels bigger when you stop moving. And knowing realization, I'm always moving.
Yeah. Standing still is a dangerous habit. Starts making you think.
I'm just passing through here. We're expanding our tracks. We need some iron. My city doesn't open up its gates unless there's a reason. I'm hoping trade counts as one.
Trade counts. People out here build things worth trading for.
And you? Last I heard, you vanished north. Figured you either froze or got lost.
Neither. I'm heading back to Spoon City. My season here is over. But come by sometimes. We can trade for some iron, if you still need that.
I'll take your word for it. Till next time then.
Safe travels, man.